you've ever read Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye, I resonate so much with the character Piccola. She's obsessed with this idea of if I had blue eyes, then I would be beautiful. Wishing that I had the blonde hair, the blue eyes, just wishing that that was more of my reality. I'm a rock climber. I've been rock climbing for about 13 plus years, and I'm the founder of Muse Mentorship, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. And I'm currently a PhD student in neuroscience. Family life when I was younger was just very interesting. At first, it was just me and my mom, living with a single mom and moving to different parts of the state. I think when I was 8 or 9, my mom remarried and we moved to Hendersonville, North Carolina, and the entire experience really just flipped my life kind of upside down. I didn't necessarily identify as biracial, even though of course that's what I was. I just felt like society have let me know that I am Black, and that's it. That many years of kind of just wishing you were different or feeling othered, I think that leaves a mark on anybody. But of course now, as I'm self-educating and reading and learning and talking about identity with my friends, it's like none of this was new. Everything that I was experiencing had already been experienced 100 different ways by a million different people. So I think that gave me a lot of strength.
It's important that we have our own collective spaces where our values are represented, because we can go out there and just feel very small and invisible.
Yeah.
And so having these spaces allows for us to be blackity black together.
I went to college and it was great, but after about a year, I was facing like a lot of just like financial insecurity. I was lying about having health insurance to avoid bills. My mental health suffered a lot. And definitely one of the very few Black people, it'd be 300 people in a class and I could just count the number of Black people on one hand. I just had a breaking point. I just said, Mom, I just can't do this anymore. And that was actually one of the saddest things that I can remember, because I'll just never forget how hard it felt to just like quit something. Muse stands for Mentorship for Underrepresented STEM Enthusiasts. I created that because I didn't really see a Black neuroscientist until I was 29 years old. I want to be a professor, I want to mentor students, I want to change this landscape entirely. So I wanted to be able to provide the opposite of what my experience was for students. That's to say, I wanted to provide validation, encouragement, representation, just someone who really understands and just uplifts them. I kind of fell into the field of neuroscience. By chance, got offered an animal technician job at the Allen Institute for Brain Science in Seattle. That was the first time I had ever really even heard of the field of neuroscience. I was probably in my mid-20s, and I was instantly hooked. Neuroscience is essentially the study of the brain or the central nervous system. My work is focused on age-related cognitive decline. There are a lot of connections or sort of parallels between rock climbing and neuroscience. They both take a tremendous amount of patience and focus. Both science and climbing seem to be about 99% failure. Failure is so inherent in the idea of self-mastery because you really need to fail beautifully before you're able to really understand the full process and the full scope of your capability. For me, self-mastery is the constant effort of trying to improve. It's simple as that. I started rock climbing when I was in my last year of high school. I got into it because I did it for a senior project. I was really interested in the psychology of extreme sports. I have a very considerable fear of heights. I was really interested in what would make someone motivated to, scale these massive cliffs and have to reconcile with the fact that it was so dangerous. There are a few different styles of climbing. The one that I've sort of gravitated to is bouldering. So that's kind of where you climb without a rope. You have these little foam crash pads under you while you're climbing. And the boulders, are usually maybe like 15-ish feet tall. I've definitely taken a bit of a break, about a year and a half and then some from rock climbing. And I actually really appreciated it because I think that I was starting to get into a mindset that wasn't as healthy about rock climbing. My body has changed a lot. I've gained some weight and I have lost some strength, and so I thought that would be more challenging than it is to get back into it, but I've actually had a lot of fun coming back into it with a completely different sort of perspective. There's a lot of, I think, body image issues in the climbing industry. Eating disorders are rampant. There's this big emphasis on being thin and light. I was always a very sort of tall, muscular, Black woman growing up, so my body type was not anywhere near that of my sort of peers, right? I don't want to be, this thin or emaciated, person. I've been trying to reject that. I think it is difficult, but I think that I'd rather just be healthy and strong and not trying to ascribe to what rock climbers deem as a standard. I don't want to ascribe to that. Anybody that has passion and curiosity can be a rock climber. And I think that rock climbing in itself can teach you so much. No one is born just being an incredible, at anything, right? Incredible climber, incredible this. So much of that is learned through experience, trial and error. If anyone is excited, if you're curious, and if you are willing to kind of get outside your comfort zone, I think those are sort of foundational to being a climber. I identify as like a biracial Black woman. I think the biracial point is so important to name because my experiences are very different than a darker skinned Black woman or person. It certainly informs the way people are going to respond to you and sort of names a privilege that's kind of inherent in your identity too. Privilege is such the scary word that we seem to sort of associate with being bad, but it can also be things that you haven't had to experience or you haven't had to navigate. How do I move throughout spaces in society in a way that is granted to me because of the lightness of my skin? Our experiences are so vastly different. How different is the experience of a white bisexual woman versus a Black transgender woman? There are a lot of ways in which somebody, especially myself, can hold privilege, and that informs the way that we sort of move and navigate the world. Once you put all of these tools that you've been, studying and putting into practice and kind of are able to tackle these things that once made you really fearful, kind of makes you think like, well, what else is possible? It just makes me want to push even further.